Don't forget.
Bad. Oh, sorry. Bad, written by Daniel McCurry. Exterior, Roseberry Avenue, Islington Day.
Islington.
On one side of Islington, sorry, say American. Um, on one side of the road is Sadler's Wells Ballet Theater. On the other side is a concrete spa green estate. Estate. Welcome to, how do I say it?
Islington.
Islington.
Islington. A police squad car is parked at the side of the road with an egg smashed across the windscreen. Two police constables inspect the smashed egg. The female is PC Petite, 22. Innocent and sweet looking, but with a wicked streak. She was torn between a career in policing or crime, before realizing that the pension benefits were better than stealing. The male officer is PC Hunter, 24, a tough guy with muscles so big that he doesn't understand why he never gets laid. The truth is they think he's gay. Petite is in the driver's seat and Hunter is on the pavement with a bottle of water.
Just chuck it on the glass.
Why?
Look.
She pulls on the window washer button and the water jets squirt onto the pavement, just missing PC Hunter.
I had this on my Audi. What you have to do is get a needle and point it into the jet and...
Can you please just chuck some water on the glass? Can you... I think I read that right. Can you please just chuck some water on the glass?
He pours the water onto the windscreen and she turns on the window wipers to swipe the windscreen clean.
All right, get in.
Exterior, Junction Angel, Islington Day. Did I do that wrong again?
Islington.
Islington, I'm so sorry. The squad car approaches the busy junction of Islington, where growling cars are forced to pause by red, amber, and green. A young black man is hustling drivers with the squeegee mop, splashing windscreens before without asking, and hoping to be paid a pound. Interior squad car driving day, approaching the junction and joining the queue.
Hello. Maybe we should have got a squeezy merchant on it. Hang on. It's your mate, ain't it?
Who's that?
Tyrone Mackenzie.
He's not my mate. I'm an officer. He's an offender.
Sorry, I meant your bum boy.
Ha ha ha. Everybody knows I like women. They're pretty cool with me.
He's on the phone. Drug deal? Whether or not, are you up for a laugh?
Tyson, 22, a black male on first name terms with every local copper. He looks like he's ready to fight worlds, but inside he's fighting back the tears. We find him at the junction with a squeegee mop and bucket, but is distracted by a phone call.
I'm working now. I'm earning your money. Yes. It's legit. I'm going to get your money. I want to see my son.
The lights change, causing a shuffle of cars moving forward. A black woman driver looks across at Tyson and beeps her horn.
I gotta go. It's a customer.
Tyson rushes up to the car and slashes her windscreen with a sponge.
All right, love.
He swipes it clean with his blade as the lights change to amber. She passes 2-pound coins through the window and roars off.
Thanks, love.
The cars shuffle up until the squad car appears before Tyson.
Hello, Tyson.
I'm working. Leave me alone.
I bet you are. And who was the phone call? A drug deal?
It was my baby mama.
Baby mama? You?
I'm a dad now. I'm earning. I ain't breaking no laws.
Come on, Tyson. How long are you gonna last standing at the junction with a squeegee mop?
I have to. She won't let me see my son if I don't deliver a buggy. 200 quid. That's what I'm doing.
Sounds good to me.
Just get him to stand a bit closer to the left and to the left.
Do me a favour, Tyson. Just stand to the left a bit. Why?
Why?
Humour me.
Tyson moves across.
Perfect.
She pulls on the window washer button. The water jet squirts right into Tyson's face. The copper bursts out laughing. The squad car roars off. Tyson chucks his mop on the floor and kicks the bucket down the road.
Bastards. The bastards.
Interior supermarket day. Tyson is at the baby food section. He takes 2 products and drops one into his basket and the other inside his jacket. Interior CCTV room, supermarket day. The CCTV operator is watching Tyson steal. He speaks into his microphone.
Aisle 17, baby food, black male.
Interior squad car driving day. Petite and Hunter, a radio call comes in.
Area car 2, Sainsbury's, Liverpool Road. Suspect detained by staff.
What's the chances a black male by the name of...
Pete switches on the blues and 2s. Interior supermarket day. Tyson's jacket is bulging. His basket contains just a few items. He walks up to the self-serve tills and looks about, then puts the basket on the floor and heads straight for the street. Exterior street supermarket day. As Tyson walks out of the supermarket, Hunter and Petite step in front of him. Tyson spins around and goes to walk back in. A security guard blocks him.
Hello, Tyson. Going legit, are we?
Come on. Just give me a ban. I can't get nicked. I'm a dad.
Too late for that, Tyson. Open your jacket.
Interior custody suite day. Tyson is at the custody sergeant's desk, handcuffed rear stack. Hunter stands beside him while Petite hovers.
What's your date of birth, Tyson?
Didn't have a choice.
Date of birth, mate.
I ain't a mugger. I ain't a perv. I ain't a murderer. I'm just a new dad trying to earn the right to see my son.
I've got it here from your previous.
Pete sneakily reaches around Hunter and fuddles Tyson's bum. Tyson looks at Hunter, thinking it was him.
What?
Smash. Tyson headbutts Hunter, knocking him to the floor. A whole bunch of officers dive in and take Tyson to the floor and restrain him. Petite stifles her laugh and has to step into the doctor's room. Hunter's nose is covered with blood as he recovers his sense of mayhem. Interior doctor's room, custody suite day. Petite shuts the door behind her and laughs her head off. Exterior Canonbury Square day. A grand terrace of stuccoed townhouses. Number 27 is the Wilkins house. Interior ground floor reception day. The decor is bookish and well traveled, but a generation has passed since a decorator was last employed. Photos on the mantelpiece of sons and grandchildren, perfectly dressed as if for Sunday service, with a turban and string of pearls. Mrs. Wilkins, 70, is the great and good of Islington. A convent girl, there is something of the empire about her, the unassuming authority and pleasant manner. However, right now she is irritating the housekeeper, Ukrainian Elena, 40, who is upstairs cleaning. Mrs. Wilkins has recently discovered the Duolingo app and fully expects Elena to be pleased that her employer has chosen Ukrainian.
Clean the table and then clean the chair.
Clean the table and then clean the chair.
Interior ground floor hallway day. Mrs. Wilkins calls up the stairs.
Eleanor, clean the table and then clean the chair.
Yes, Mrs. Wilkins.
Mrs. Wilkins stabs at the screen of her phone a couple of times. She doesn't know how to swipe.
Today, wash the bathroom. Tomorrow, clean the car.
Eleanor, today wash the bathroom. Tomorrow, clean the car.
Interior first floor reception day. Elena is hoovering when Mrs. Wilkins shouts up the stairs.
Eleanor, wash the dog first and wash the cat second.
I will wash you if you don't shut up.
What?
Interior ground floor hallway day. Elena shouts down.
Shove that phone up your nose and then wash your ass.
Mrs. Wilkins thinks for a moment as the tries to translate.
Once more, but slower.
Elena comes downstairs. Interior ground floor hallway day. Elena comes down the stairs.
Oh, there you are.
Elena heads to the front door and opens it.
This is not study part of day. This is shopping part. You go to independent shops. I clean house in peace.
I'm under your toes.
Mrs. Wilkins picks up her cane and handbag and walks to the door.
Wait,
Elena takes a clothes brush and rubs Mrs. Wilkins down.
all is done.
Good.
There is door. There is High Street. There is independent shops. Go,
I sometimes wonder if it's your house and I'm the hired help.
go.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Elena heads upstairs. Mrs. Wilkins stays exactly where she is, staring at the open front door. Interior first floor reception day. Elena returns to her Henry Hoover.
Olive won't speak English. Why complicate stupid paid-for app?
Interior ground floor hallway day. Mrs. Wilkins is still staring at the open front door. She uses her walking stick to push the door shut. Interior first floor reception day. Elena hoovering hears the front door shut.
Stupid language no one ever speak.
As she hoovers, she peers out of the window at the street, but doesn't see Mrs. Wilkins. She switches off the hoover and looks down at the pavement again, up and down the street. She heads downstairs. Interior ground floor reception day. Mrs. Wilkins is stood in exactly the same position, perfectly still. Eleanor switches on the light and sees that Mrs. Wilkins' face is covered with tears.
What is tears? I cannot clean tears.
No, you can't.
I can make tea with biscuit from cupboard.
Yes.
They head towards the kitchen, interior kitchen. Eleanor has made tea for Mrs. Wilkins.
You know, it wasn't at the funeral that I first knew, because I always knew. I'd spent the last 40 years silencing the alarm bell in the back of my head. I didn't discover anything at the funeral. I was just forced to face up to it. You can't very well continue with a pretense when you've watched your husband's staff offer condolences to another woman right in front of you. They mostly didn't know who I was. And that was the biggest part of his life. There, not here. Office, not home.
Eleanor opens the biscuit tin and holds it up to her.
Milk chocolate are melting. Watch fingertips. And that's our page 10. Yes. So Stewart, as you have to go, why not give us your thoughts first off?
Yeah, okay. First thoughts. I thought the police scene was quite interesting, as in the characters that were starting to develop. Obviously not as nice as they might seem, squirting the poor guy doing the windscreen washing. Yeah, I thought that set that up quite nicely in terms of, you know, a very real scene, as it were. There were some typos I spotted. There were quite a few typos that probably other people have picked up on as well, which is just good to go through that. I don't know, it doesn't actually say when this is set. It just says day in Islington. Is this kind of current time? Is this set in the future sometime, or is it in the past? So that would be good, quite good to know. I'd like to know where Petite is going into, you know, PC Petite, and why she's so mischievous, and what that's going to do to the relationship between her and Hunter. And I felt quite sorry for Tyson, actually. I felt really sorry for him. So maybe that, you know, that was quite effective in terms of moving the audience towards sympathy towards him. So that was good. And then it just kind of switched to this scene with Mrs. Wilkins. And so I was thinking, hang on a minute, where are we going now? It was a bit of a jolt to me. And I don't know whether that was deliberate, to kind of completely shift to another scenario and setting, which is fine, but it's just kind of, okay, well, how does this fit into that first scene then? And where, you know, how does that link? Maybe that's going to come out later in the script, and the story. So I'm seeing this as TV, as opposed to film, but it could be a film. So that would be good to know. It's funny, actually, Mrs. Wilkins, I actually knew someone exactly like that. So that jumped out of the page for me, that, you know, sort of a kind of a sniff of the Empire going on. So that made me smile. So, but yeah, interesting stuff. You know, good characters to develop, and I'd like to see where it goes.
Thank you. That's brilliant. Thanks, John.
I'm going to have to go.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
I'm going to say the same thing 3 times. Proofread, proofread, proofread. An awful lot of spelling mistakes. Quite a few half sentences repeated again, like putting the water on, putting on the water. Doesn't make sense, but because it's written, you have to say it. good characters. I like the character of Tyson because there is the devil and the angel on either shoulder. You know, the poor lad's trying to make a living and it's not paying out, but he's still got to feed his baby. It's that, you know, it's a situation that we can be aware of. Enjoyed it. Definitely want to see where it's going. More TV series than film or stage. It's definitely got that feeling about it. Petite, in 2 words, fucked up. There's something loose there, you know. Obviously, the fight in the police station, because everybody thinks Hunter's gay. Obviously, Tyson also thinks Hunter's gay, so Petite just grabs his ass and he automatically thinks it's Hunter. Ergo, fight. So that's a messed up person. But yeah, humour in there, a lot of it dark, my kind of humour. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Very cool. Erin.
I'm very intrigued by the title just being simply bad, because I like that it leaves it open for, like, you know, good and bad, and people in like jobs that are traditionally like for like kind of a good Samaritan or a good person, and like she's so mischievous. Like, I like the idea of like what's right, what's wrong, what, like the pull of between those things, because Tyson's really just trying to be a good person, but he has like seems like he knows a life of crime, like, too, so like trying to take care of his son. I don't know, it's really interesting, that dynamic. A lot of what everybody else said. There's a mention of a Tyrone McKenzie, and I don't know if that was meant to be Tyson.
Yeah.
And just that there was just a name change because it's so similar. I was just curious about that. I definitely wonder if this is a series. It seems like a series. It seems very interesting. I'm interested to see like how all these characters, if all these characters are connected and if they're not connected, and where it's going.
Oh, thank you. Catherine.
Yeah, same really. Proofread, lots of typos and some grammar mistakes in there. Good idea with proofreading is to get somebody else that hasn't seen it to read it, because a lot of the times if you've seen it so much, your eyes will just miss all the typos a lot of the time. I know from writing myself it happens. So get somebody else to proofread it for you, because there's quite a few mistakes in there. But yeah, we'd like to know when it is. Although you've got apps and stuff, apps have been going for quite some time, so that would be useful to know. It did come across more like a series to me, which is not a bad thing. There was some interesting subplots going on there with the characters. Petite was quite interesting. I was wondering if she was evil on purpose because she hated being a cop, or does she think it's just funny, or is she literally caught between she had to be a policewoman and wanted to be in the crime world, and that's why maybe she's evil towards the criminals a bit more because she's jealous for some reason or something? I don't know. But yeah, some nice subplot things going on. Would like to read more of it. Needs tidying up. I did sense an overall slightly overwhelming air of bitterness about everything. I'm not sure, it almost came across like a little bit of This Is England vibe thing going on, where everything was just angry and bad and evil, and it depends on how it's acted and directed, if it's supposed to be dark humor or it's just really, really bleak. That would be interesting to read. But no, so far so good. I enjoyed it, and I'd be interested to read the rest of it, so well done so far.
Right, thank you. Rory.
My main question is whose story is it, really? Because we initially seem to be following Petite and Hunter, then we're following Tyson, then we've got sympathy for Tyson and empathy, and then Tyson smacks Hunter, and then we're suddenly off with the two ladies in the house. I'm going to kick against the trend, I'm afraid. I didn't really enjoy this. It seemed to be brutal, a bit of an exercise in cliches. I thought that all the characters we've seen a million times before in many other things. I thought that the relationships we've seen a million times before in a lot of other things. I thought, Tyson's story was the most interesting one. But Yeah, I think it needs a lot of work, and some to be brutal with yourself and get someone else to go through it who reads a lot, who you would trust to give you brutal feedback, because it's like first draft at the moment, and it needs a lot of work to make this work in my opinion. Yeah, I can't see it. The trouble is, it's like so many other things that are on the telly,
Yeah.
and there's only so many of those sorts of things that are going to get commissioned to go on the telly, and this is, like I say, a bit of a cliche exercise in, I'll write one just like that. So yeah, I think, yeah, lots and lots of work.
Okay, thanks. Emma.
It's interesting, the title, as Erin was saying, it sort of leaves you to kind of imagine a lot, but I was just sort of thinking, it's quite brave in a way, isn't it? So somebody going, I read your script, it was bad. Yeah, it doesn't kind of, it's some sort of some brass neck there, I think, to be able to call it that. I thought, yeah, I mean, I don't know how it all fits together because I've only read 10 pages, and I would be interested to see how these two and more worlds, the three at least worlds, collide, if they're going to collide, which I imagine they must in some way. I think that the business, the stage directions, whatever you call them when it's not a stage play, are more sort of kind of, I think my guess is this is a writer, this is somebody who's used to writing, I think, but maybe poetry, I don't know, but not used to writing for performance or film, I think, because there's a lot of sort of quite elaborate bits of business descriptions of people that aren't necessarily functionally helpful. That's my sense of it. I think when Tyson appears, we know he's got a squeegee, we know he's standing at a junction waiting to clean people's windscreens, and then it said he's at the junction with a squeegee, and so I think just look out for redundant bits of information, and just yeah, I'm not sure really about the police bit yet. It didn't quite grab me. Just a tiny thing, I must say, in defense of Duolingo, it isn't stupid. It doesn't have to be paid for, and you don't swipe, because I do Duolingo and it doesn't do any of those things. It's useful and good, I think.
It also doesn't translate in the way that they're using it to translate them.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
So it wouldn't give you
It was
those
written as
phrases.
completely broken English. Does it not just give you the actual translation of something?
Just gives you
lots
things
of
like
different things.
Yeah.
You have to
how to stroke a zebra.
Write down. Yeah,
like
it does some quite eccentric things to get you to remember stuff, doesn't it?
Oh,
but it will sometimes get you to shuffle around word tiles, as it were, to recreate what you've heard. You might have to type out what you've heard. You might have to speak. There's lots of different things you have to do, and
But it's not a translation.
I feel
not
that
a translation.
No, it's about learning languages. Yeah. And
I'm using it to relearn my Gaelic.
Are you? Yeah.
Yes.
a very important another tip then is always do your research, especially if something does exist. Make sure you know how it works.
Another thing I would say,
I hadn't heard of it, but
I think people, it could be that the writer knows lots of people from Ukraine, and this is all worked through. I think when you're creating dialogue for somebody, a character who's not speaking their first language and they're not utterly fluent, and who is in another language, is to think about how they would do it. I mean, I don't know about Ukrainian, but I know in Russian they tend not to have articles, either definite or indefinite articles. So you say things like on grass, ball, and things like that, so it's just like, try and think about the things, the mistakes that you'd make in another language because of the way your language works. And just, I would get somebody who is Ukrainian, if you can, to have a little read. It might be perfect, but I just wasn't quite sure that it read that like it was a Ukrainian person speaking English. Also, I was wondering why we were changing scene. We get to Mrs. Wilkins's house, and then we keep having these different scenes. Is it like exactly like following straight on? That they're talking, and she's in one room, she's in another room, she's learning another word, and she's shouting up to different places, and then Eleanor comes down and sees. To me, it got interesting when Mrs. Wilkins didn't leave and just stared at the door. I was thinking, oh, there's something a bit curious here. And then Eleanor comes down and it's dark because I think it must be dark. She puts on the light and it's like, has she been there for hours on end? You know, what's happening with the passage of time? I wasn't quite sure. And I thought, is this stranger than we think, actually? It just got interesting at the end for me, just like this. But also, why? It's always that perennial question. Why this and why now? Why is Mrs. Wilkins suddenly telling Eleanor this stuff about her husband and the secret that was never really a secret? You know, because to me, it's something like, oh, you know, what makes a person choose to live their life like that? You know, so Mrs. Wilkins, it's interesting. Stewart said she was recognizable to him. I thought, depending on when this is set, she seems to me very much an anachronism, but I could be wrong. I mean, I know there are people with all sorts of strange views about empire and things like that. And I would also say, I would echo Catherine's thing about get someone to read him. You know, if you are dyslexic, for example, get somebody who isn't to have a look. You know, just if you aren't dyslexic, get someone else to have a look. But I would also say, and I'd say this to any writer, read it out loud, read it out loud, read it out loud, as John would say, because so often, you know, you realize that some things are impossible for people to say, or just you know, difficult for people to say. I would ask any person who's writing for performance to please, you know, if not you, get somebody to read it out loud, because there's no way of knowing, you know, what it's going to be.
Flow of natural speech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
great, thank you. So yeah, I echo a lot of what everybody has said. My notes are just to pick up on what you just said, Emma, about the scene headings with the Mrs. Wilkins and Elena, or Eleanor, however we're saying that. There is a I think it's an error really on page 9, interior ground floor hallway. There's a short scene and then we've got a repeat of that interior ground floor hallway at the end of the first scene there, after Mrs. Wilkins has said once more but slower. Then we've got Eleanor comes downstairs. Then we've got interior ground floor hallway day, which is the same location, exactly the same. Eleanor comes downstairs. So that's the kind of little thing. I mean, if it's the same scene, you don't need a scene heading, and she doesn't need to come downstairs twice. If it's a different shot, then you have to set it up in a slightly different way. But at this stage, you don't really need to be thinking about shots in that way. So yeah, that's just a little bit confusing. I think a lot of the descriptions for it opened up really well. I thought that the setup was good. Rosebery Avenue, I know this road, it's down the road from me, and the squad car. But I then think the descriptions are kind of over the top for the characters. We don't really need that much. And I have to echo what Rory is saying as well. They feel like stereotypes. In fact, all of the characters feel like stereotypes, and that worries me. Or not only that, the names carry it through. Petite, she's small, innocent, sweet. Hunter, he's got muscles, he's a tough guy. The names echo the characters. Now, if this is a comedy, that's fine, you can do that. It's no problem. Tyson, it's an obvious name for a black guy. And why is it a black guy that's struggling to make a few quid at the traffic lights, you know, cleaning? Because I'm sure we've all seen these guys, and you know, so it feels like a stereotype. Why is it the black guy that's being picked on by the police? You know, if it was a comedy and you were just sending the whole thing up, I think you could really get away with it, possibly. But then we get that little bit of sexual harassment where she feels his bum and makes out it's Tyson. And my note was, made me cringe at times, and also sexual harassment. Really? I'm going, really? do we want to don't we want to be a bit more clever than this, you know, and not go down this sort of cliched path? What else have I written down here? And again, I've also put down, whose story is it? Is it Petite and Hunter? Is it Tyrone's? Is it Mrs. Wilkins and Alina? If you're going to have a setup where you're going to set up several different scenes with several different lots of stuff happening, so that we can eventually sort of land on a story and people and go with it, you've got to make those scenes shorter and snappier so that we can move between them faster, so that you set up in the viewer's mind, okay, that's happening there, okay, right, okay, that's happening there, okay, right, okay, that's happening there, okay, right, but it's these people, these are the story, and you weave your way through those different elements. But you have to do that fast. You can't do it over like several pages of setup for one bunch of characters, which means that your viewer is going to invest themselves in those characters, you know. So you have to decide, who is it that you are focusing on? Who are we going to focus on? Who is the main character here? And then it's like building blocks. It's almost like a Lego, you know. It's like having your little Lego character and then building the blocks around them, the different scenes and the different things to push that character forward, so that we get that that's their story. I think that's all I've got, really. Sorry about that. Well, I would like to know where it goes. I would like to know what it's about as well, because I don't really get a sense of really what it's about. And that's really important. I'd like to know what it's about.
And how the two different stories connect, if they connect.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. But sometimes you've got to be, it's not enough just to lay out different storylines and give them big, you know, minutes and minutes and minutes of storyline, and then hope that we'll get it. You've got to be a lot cleverer than that and weave these stories. You could weave that story already. You could have the two cops coming up to the junction, seeing Tyson, have that start off with that. You could then cut to Mrs. Wilkins getting ready to go out, and Elena, and the little tiny bit of banter between them, and then cut back to the junction again, and they've been called to the Sainsbury's, and then she's getting her bags ready, cut back to her, she's getting her bags ready to go. Do you want anything from the shops? She's on her way to the Sainsbury's. You know, there's a lot you can already do with it to really ramp up the intrigue and make people think, what's going on here? Who's story? You know, I've got to watch this to find out what's happening. So it's just about being clever with it, really. I hope
Even if it's a false build-up of like, are they going to come together in Sainsbury's, and then they don't.
Exactly.
Because that still would be a twist.
Exactly, because that still makes you think, oh, okay.
Yeah, so what's going to happen next? You know, yeah.
Meanwhile, Elena's bumping off the window cleaner or something. Or something. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? But it's just watch, if you, depending on what genre this is as well. I mean, is it a cop show, or is it just is it a drama with police in it? There's a difference, you know. If it's a cop show, and I'm sure you watch cop shows if it is, because nobody writes crime if they don't like watching crime. Watch how the really good shows build those opening scenes so that they draw you in. Unless it's something like Shetland or Vera, which are both written by the same person, I have to say. Where you get a long process, a drawn out process of seeing the body and the investigation, and it's a very straight through thing, but you've not got a scene somewhere else where some whole other scenario is happening, and you know, it's just a very straight through process. So you can't be nice and slow if actually there's actually a lot happening in different places. You've got to pace it up a bit. Sorry, I could talk forever about this.
It's actually quite confusing as to what genre it was, whether it was a drama or it was a quite sort of almost airplane-ish comedy with all the
Exactly. Yeah.
Cliche type joke. Well, are they jokes or is it accidental? Or, because
It's hard to say, isn't it? Yeah.
it's hard to sort of comment.
It is intriguing.
Yeah,
And I'd like to know why you made the choices for those characters and the names, and so maybe, yes, if we had more, we would understand. A bit like the previous script that we read, where it all comes together in the last scene, and because we don't ever read the last scene, we don't know that. But also, that last scene shouldn't be left. Yeah, you want an intriguing last scene, but at the same time,
you want people to get to it.
You want people to get to it.
Yeah, you don't be able to wander off halfway
Yeah,
through.
exactly.
Sort of engage them in the first page.
That's it.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
entrap
Okay.
them for the rest. But
Thank you so much.
so far, so good. There's work to be done, but there's
Yeah,
something there.
Thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely. Don't give up. Keep on going.